screen now, right?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. So like if you see here, this is what we will do. This is MM part. So materials management, this is the one we'll be doing. We'll be doing the integration also. Integration means there are modules called sales and distribution. There is production planning. This is quality module QA. This is plant maintenance. Then we have HR module. We have IS, like, which is industry specific module. We have project. This is totally a finance module, which is like finance and costing, and then asset module. So the module which we'll be concentrating on is basically MM, but we'll be doing a lot of integration with sales and distribution. We'll be doing integration with production planning. So this whole part is supply chain. If you see this PP, MM, SD, this is the supply chain module. Okay. But like if you say like the first time when you learn SAP, if you try to learn all these things, you'll forget everything. So if you have to start your career, the best place to start is MM, because that is where like you purchase, you procure your material and you consume it. So you consume for an order, you might consume for a production order. So that is where all the integration is there. Then MM is very deeply integrated to finance module. That means anything what you do, good receipt and the invoice verification. Invoice verification is very deeply integrated, and the good receipt is very, very deeply integrated with finance module. So it is not necessary to you to know finance, but there are something basics like credit and debit and all GL accounts and everything. That is a basic knowledge which even if you don't have it, like we'll work together and I'll let you know, because I'm also not a finance guy, but I know the basics of what is credit, what is debit, and what is GL account. All these kind, like when you start working, you will know like over the period of time. And that is where I come in and I help you guys in helping this, like whatever you want to do it. Okay, then we have is called components of materials management. What all things what you have in materials management is purchasing. You have inventory management. We'll talk about logistics, invoice verification. We'll talk of material master. We'll talk about valuation, what valuation is. We'll talk about materials requirement planning. That is what MRP is. We have physical inventory. That means all the materials are counted annually, or it is counted like how many times a year. Based on that, we talk about the physical inventory. We have service masters. We have service entry sheet. Service entry sheet is basically like if you perform any services, so you can do that service entry sheet. And then also you have foreign trade customs. If anything material is coming from outside, and if anything you are importing a material, because for us it is import is important, because that is what we are creating a purchase order for. Export is more towards sales and distribution. And product catalog is nothing but it is basically the info record price for a particular material and vendor combination. That is what is product catalog. Okay. To start with, in SAP, you have organizational data. Okay. And organizational data, like is basically the unit. It is a hierarchy of our organizational scoring unit, which we called in SAP as an enterprise structure. So if you are only related to materials management, this is what organizational structure we'll be talking a lot of times when we'll be doing the training. That means we'll start with the client, what is company code, what is plant, and the storage location, and the purchasing organization and the purchasing group. This is what is specific to MM. There are other organizational structures which are related to sales and finance. Means company code is finance level. The finance people decide how many company code where company will have it. But that is mandatory, is like every country will have its own company code. That is mandatory. If the companies are having business in different countries, that means there will be multiple company codes in a particular country. But you can have multiple company codes in a country based on the line of business of the company. You have plant. Plant is basically the valuation area where you evaluate the material. Storage location is the place where you store the material. And purchasing organization and purchasing group is the place where you procure the material. Purchasing group are the people like the buyers who are working for purchasing organization. So that is what the whole structure of will look like. We'll go into detail of every one when we go into like how we configure company code, how we configure plan, how we configure storage location, and the purchasing organization. This is all we'll be configuring in the system when we do this, when we start the training. Same thing, like these are the organization structure. Sorry, any question?
Yes, I have a question. This is Mohammed Ibrahim.
Yes.
On the storage locations, this time you'll be configuring warehouse management also?
Warehouse management, yes. So beyond storage location is a warehouse management. Okay. So if you want to go to, means if you want to go to the bin levels and you want to go to the storage type level, then it is beyond storage location. So that is what there is one screenshot here. I'll show you like how it will be. But we'll go through that and I'll show you like how the structure looks like.
Okay.
Okay. So the client is nothing but it is basically the top level, the corporate group. Think of a company like an Apple. Apple is a client, but there are multiple. Then we have companies and the company code. Think of company code is the place where you generate your profit and loss statement. That means Apple can have multiple company code in their own US country because they have different line of business. So every line of business, if they are generating a profit and loss statement for a particular corporate group, then we have to have a company code for that. Like companies like Sony or companies like big companies, they have multiple company codes in a particular country because based on their line of business, they might want to represent. They want to have its own balance sheet. So if they have to have its own balance sheet, then you have to have multiple company codes. You have to configure multiple company codes. And
a different way of saying
like, sorry.
Is in a different way of saying it's a business division.
Yes, it's a business division. You can say in that way. Yes. So it is basically where you are generating your profit and loss statement. Because say now companies like if you say take a company of Apple. Apple is like they have multiple line of business. They have like one is like a TV as one line of business. Then they have one is like iPhone, which is one line of business. They have iPad as one line of business. So they might want to create a group which is only they want to take a profit and loss statement based on iPhone, how many iPhones like they are particularly selling and buying and all that. So they might have one company code just for one line of business, which is let's say iPhone. Then they might venture into some other business and they start with like say television or TV in the business. So in that they will have a different company code because they want to, finance wants to segregate profit and loss statement based on the line of business. Or they might start tomorrow an oil business. So they don't want to mix that business with like this industry. So they want to have a different company code for that. So based on their profit and loss statement, based on the line of business, they want to segregate based on like what kind of profit and loss statement they have. They have different company codes. We can set up a company code. Then you have organizational structure plant. Plant is like, if you think plant is anything you can configure in SAP as a plant. But if you think in that means it is not, you can configure plant as a production site. That means as a production, like any manufacturing plant can be a plant. You can set up your office as a manufacturing, as a plant in SAP. You can set up a sales office as a plant. You can set up anything which is where you are storing the material, where you are evaluating the material, that you can configure that as a plant. Okay. Then valuation area is the area. Valuation area in SAP is nothing but it is a plant. That is basically you can have valuation area set up at the company code level or at the plant level. But SAP recommends, like whenever you are setting up the manufacturing up, it is always it is mandatory to have valuation area at the plant level. That means you will be evaluating the material at the plant level. That means basically is when you are setting up a material master, you are setting up what the price of material is. So that is based at the plant level because every plant can have its own price. Okay. Storage location is the level where you are storing the material. Storing the material is basically there are different kind of materials in SAP. By definition, like if you say there are raw materials, there are finished products, there are trading materials, there are based on the line of business, like based on the companies which you are implementing, you have to set up that material type. Like if you go to a company like any pharmaceutical company, they would have a lot of raw materials. They might have semi-finished products. They will have finished products, but like not many companies will have a trading material. Like, so I'm getting a disturbance. Like if everybody can mute, that would help all of the people like who are in the meeting. Okay, so storage location like means I was talking about different material types. So if you go to a retail industry, there you will have a lot of HAWA materials. These are trading materials. Like if you talk Walmart, if you talk Stop and Shop. Sorry. Okay, so that is what is like means all the storage. So if you want to store those materials, raw material or finished product or any kind of material type, if you want to store it, or an MRO material, but MRO material is materials repairs and operations. That is basically your materials like which are used for repairs. So those materials where you have to store it, that is what we have to configure a storage location. So you might have a separate storage location for a raw material. You might have a separate storage location for a finished product. You might have a separate storage location for an MRO material. So that is what we have to configure when we start working on that one. Okay. Purchasing organization is the organization which is responsible for procuring the material. That is basically it is not mandatory for every country to have one purchasing organization. You can have a central purchasing organization which procures for every company code. That means a company sitting in Europe can procure material for a purchasing organization sitting in Europe can procure material for US plant. They can also procure material for any company sitting in Asia. So that is like we call a central purchasing organization. Or you can have a purchasing organization for every country. That depends on the company. That is a job of a consultant. Like when we go into a company, when we sit with the client, like when we go for the implementation, we start talking to the client and then we understand their business. That is the time we decide like how many purchasing organization the company will have. And that is the way we decide on like how many purchasing organization the company will have, whether it will be for one particular company or every country will have its own purchasing organization or they will have a central purchasing organization. So the configuration comes very late. Means basically as a job of a consultant is most of the time you have to do the talking. And talking is basically you will be talking to the clients a lot because you have to understand their requirements. Sometimes like the project takes a lot of time. Like now the project where I'm working in, this project has been going on for last 20 years. And we have like still not reached the testing stage because we have so many things to do. I just configured one max. So like there are projects like where we start the configuration like 9-10 months after discussion of 9-10 months. So this goes on. So means it is not one day like you just decide this will be the purchasing organization because there are a lot of discussions happens in the company. After that only you decide that. So there can be different kind of and the purchasing groups are nothing but purchasing group is the group of the buyers working for a particular purchasing organization. Okay. Okay. This is the structure how it will look like. If you see here, client is the top, then you have company codes, 2 company codes, then you have purchasing organization. If you see here, this purchasing organization is responsible for procuring material 001 company code. These 2 purchasing organizations are responsible for 002. This is not mandatory. This is just an example we are saying. This can be anything. It can happen. Like this purchasing organization now we are saying is only responsible for this one, and there are 2 plants here which are associated to this purchasing organization. So, and then if you see here, this particular company code 0002 is there are 2 purchasing organization in there, 002 and 0003, and they are like, if you see here, there is this is the plant, and then you have 0003 and 004 plant, and this is a different plant, and then you have storage location. So a plant can share storage location with another plant. If you see here, 002 is shared by 001 plant and the 004 plant. Because some companies, like when the building is adjacent, sometimes they share the storage location. So we can have a common storage location for 2 different plants. That is what it is. And then to answer your question, like beyond storage location, some materials, like if you just want to track at the storage location level, then you don't go beyond that to warehouse management. But if you want to stock the material at the warehouse level, that means you want to track the material to the bin level, to the aisle level. Warehouse is nothing but it is basically, it tells you the exact location of a material where the material is. Storage location, you can think of a big hall, but if you go into Walmart, you might have seen like they have an aisle, and in an aisle you might be seeing that there is some barcode on there, and that barcode is nothing. Like in every aisle, if you go in, you will see a barcode there. That barcode is nothing but it's a bin number. So if you want to track down your material to the barcode level, to the place where the material is located in a particular aisle, that means you can go up to the section and say like it is upper level, or it is going on the top, or it is going in the bottom, or where it is in that aisle. You have to go for the warehouse management.
Hello, but this is Mohammed. I have another question here.
Yes.
Can you go back to the previous screen?
Yeah.
Yes. For example, here you have a purchasing organization 1 and 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 is you have a plant 3 and 4, and 1 is 1 and 2. But your storage location is actually shared between 1 and 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the question that I have, let's say the purchasing organization 1 and 2 buying the same item at 2 different prices. Purchase price. If you store in the same location, storage location, which is 2, value it will carry.
Okay, so what happens is, that is why I was explaining you, the material is evaluated at the plant level, not at the storage location level. So that means the price of the material is given at the plant. So 0001 plant will have a different price, 0004 will have a different price. And even though it is stored at 002 location, but it will have 2 different prices.
So when you take the inventory, that has to be at each plant level to get the actual value of the.
Yes. So when you do the physical inventory, you do at the storage location level, and means basically you have to decide first plant and then storage location. So basically, when you generate an inventory level, when you generate an physical inventory document, the plants which are responsible with the materials, you have to attach a material. So what you do is basically, first you have to assign a material 0001 plant, and then you have to assign a different material to 004 plant. If the same material is assigned to 001 and 004 plant, then what will happen is basically the valuation of material when you receive it first at the plant level, then at the storage location level. So the material is valuated at the plant level, not at the storage location level. So that is why, like, means the price will be different at the plant level. The storage location is only the place to store. That's it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so
you don't mind
going down.
That's right.
Hello, yeah.
Yeah, you don't mind I'm asking this kind of questions, right?
Oh no, that's good. Like that is good. Like you have an understanding of what we are talking. So that's very good to know. So that will be very helpful for you, like when you understand that, because That is what means SAP is nothing but if you understand the business, then it is very easy to map SAP with the business requirement. Yes, most of the time, like you end up gathering the and if you are good in gathering the requirement, then mapping it into SAP is not a big thing.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so then what we do is in SAP, after defining the organizational structure, then we go with the master data. We have master data like if as far as MM is concerned, we'll have material master, we have vendor master, we have bill of materials, but that is more related to the production. We only use bill of materials when we use a subcontracting stock. So that is the time we'll be using bill of material. Then we have purchasing info record, where it is a combination of material and the vendor price. See, there is one price which you set up at the plant level, that is at the accounting level, and then that is a generic price of a material. But every vendor will have a different price of a material. Say in the material master, there's an average price you have given for material A as $10. But like the vendor A can supply that same material at $11, and vendor B will supply you the material at the $10. So what you do is in the purchasing info record is you set up a price of material with a combination of material and the vendor. And so when you create the purchase order, what happens is that master data gets copied every time from the purchasing info record of a material and vendor combination. So first thing is you have to set up a material master. You have to set up that basic properties and all. And then you set up vendor. And then it is purchasing info record, which is a combination of material and vendor for a particular plant and purchasing organization. And the source list is basically a combination, is like that vendor, a particular vendor is available for that particular plant on what particular periods, like a period for 1 year or 2 years, what that validity of that period is. That is what we set up in the source list.
And here I have one question here.
Okay.
Standard price. How do you value the standard price? Based on plant level or purchasing price?
The plant level.
So you can have the same item with two different standard.
Yes, yeah, means two different price, standard price can be there for two different plants. And if you want to have the material as a standard price, and if you want, there is a thing called split valuation. We'll talk about that later. But what split valuation does is basically the same material if it is coming from different countries. For the same plant, if it is say coming from Japan, Australia, and Singapore, and that material if it is coming in US, you can configure that material as a split valuation in the same plant, and that same material based on the country which is coming from, you can have a different price for the material in the same plant. Okay, that is what we call the split valuation. Okay. And the second is basically, sorry?
It will be extremely difficult when you do the physical inventory to value your inventory asset if it's a multiple pricing structure.
Yeah, but that is like means when you do the physical inventory, it is done at the plant level. So that is why what we do is in the material master, we have a split country of origin, like you can segregate. So basically the same material, when it is coming from any country, you can do with the valuation category, and you can say the country of origin, and then it will say like, okay, this material came with this account category. So, and then basically what you do is that is why the warehouse is there, and we can segregate. We have movement times to segregate. We can segregate the material coming from different countries. And say like, okay, this will be, well, based on that, the material price is different. So valuation is nothing but it is you are evaluating your material. That means what we are doing is in the physical inventory, you are not saying what the price is. Well, in the physical inventory, we are just counting how many these materials are there. They don't say, means we don't care what value it is there in the physical inventory. Physical inventory, I'm just giving a paper to the warehouse worker and saying that count me how many of a particular, say if we take an example of Walmart, and we say like, okay, we'll do the physical inventory, and when we do the physical inventory, and if I have to count how many, if I go into say electronic section and I want to count like how many laptops are there, no matter what the price is, what I will do is I'll just say like, okay, this is the laptop. No matter where it came from, just give me the total price, total quantity of that material. That is what is physical inventory. It has no relation what the price of that is there. We don't care what the price is. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the price of that material is in the case of physical inventory. Okay. The structure of vendor master record, it will look like in the way you have seen. There are like a general section, you have purchasing section, and you have the accounting data. In the general data, like basically you say what is the name of the vendor, what is the address of the vendor, and what is the control data of the vendor. In the purchasing view, you give is the terms and conditions, you give the partner function, and you give the currency in which he will be doing the business for you. In the accounting data, basically you set up his bank account, what his bank account will be, so that you can make automatic payment. Then the payment info, like how you will pay him. Basically you can put the credit card number and all that kind of stuff. And then utilization is basically, if you put this, you can do the request for quotation, and you can do quotation and then purchase order handling. In case of accounting data, we need that accounting data is basically so that we can do is invoice entry. That helps you in doing the invoice entry of a vendor. It also helps you in doing invoice verification. And then it also helps you in payment handling, because this accounting data, all the time when you're doing the invoice verification or any kind of payment handling, the accounting data helps that data. So it's nothing but a master data. Then, like, this is how to create a material in SAP. And if you
here, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you go back to the previous screen?
Okay.
Okay. In the purchasing, the third bullet, currency. When you set up the currency, it's $1, and your purchasing value is from Indian rupees.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
If there is, when you place the purchasing, is there a different setup that is to calculate current exchange rate?
Yes. So what we do is in finance, what they do is they set up a current exchange rate, and there is a conversion for that. So what we do is, even though our means the plant, like where we are procuring, is USD, but what we are setting up here in the currency is the vendor currency, or the vendor currency. That means vendor might be an Indian vendor. He might be taking the payment in an ISD. So what we will do is, in the vendor master, we'll give it ISD, but when we create the purchase order, it will be created in Indian currency. Okay. If it's an US currency, a US vendor, and if you want that vendor, you will be paying that vendor in US dollars, that currency will be US dollars. If it is European currency, what we will do is we will set up Euro as the payment currency for the vendor. So that means when the purchase order is created for that particular vendor, it will be created in Euro.
That is based on that day's exchange rate.
Yeah. So based on the exchange rate, yes. So basically what happens is that is not our job to set up an exchange rate. That is the job of the finance people. What they do is means all the current exchange rate and all that they set up every day. Like there is a interface which comes in every day and changes the exchange rate, and that is all handled by the finance. And means whatever rate you put in the purchase order, that purchase order will be means whatever currency you are giving, that currency will be there, and that exchange rate is there configured in the material master by the in the configuration by the finance guys. Yeah.
But it's not it's a mandatory. What I meant by, let's say if it's an Indian vendor want to sell into US, they want to receive the money in dollars. It can be done in dollars also. It don't necessarily have to be ARC.
Yes. So what happens is, if they want to receive in US dollars, then the currency has to be changed here in this vendor master, because we have to set up payment.
I'm sorry. It means it's not tied in with the country of origin.
No, it is tying up with what kind of currency he wants the payment to be in.
Okay. Right. Sorry.
Okay. So create material master. This is the material master screen. This is like the SAP screen to how to create the material master. This is like the general views. If you see here, these are the views which we'll be talking about like when we do the training. There is basic data view, then purchasing view, purchase order test, general data, accounting view. And these are all the views on the material master we'll be talking about like when we do the training. This is at the plant level I was talking about, like means you do give the plant and the storage location. This is what you have to give in the basic data. This is very important. What is your base unit of measure? What is the material group? The material group is nothing but it is a group of materials which has the same property. Like cables, different kind of cables will come into one material group as cable. That is just an example. Then you will also give the gross weight per pieces, like what is the gross weight. You can give the net weight and volume, because this helps if you give this gross weight, net weight, and this helps like during the creation of a delivery for the sales order. It helps in building the truck, because now by this system can calculate how much of kgs or pieces have gone into that, and the truck guy can say like, okay, this is these many pieces can come in one truck, so that delivery will be created only for that pieces. That is where it helps in. Okay, this is create a vendor. This is how you go in. These are the fields which you need to go create a vendor. This is the screen of a vendor screen, how it looks like. This is the company. You give the address, you give what street address it is there, you give the PO box number, language, and this is the order currency I was talking, like you can give euro if you want, and this is the terms of payment. This is like Incoterms is like till what time the vendor is responsible. And this is the business process integration. That means FI, MM, and SD. MM is very tightly integrated to finance module, and it is also very tightly integrated to SD modules. In case of master data and like if you see here, like organizational data and certain rules, like which is very much tightly integrated. Then there are like business process integration. There are purchasing process, and the transactions are there. The rules and parameters of for a master data is like rules determine the functionality of master data. Rules change when the corporate policy change. So the rules is like, say, in the materials management, we have fiscal period. Fiscal period is nothing but it is the year. 1 year, some people, they follow the fiscal year followed by March to March. And there are certain companies which follow from January to December. So that is that. And account groups is basically used in vendor master to determine whether it is a one-time vendor or is a good recipient or is the purchase order. Material types are the rules which determine what kind of material it is. Like if it's a raw material by definition you can procure it, but you cannot sell it outside. Semi-finished is like you can procure it from outside, you can sell it also, and you can produce it inside. Finished product you cannot buy from outside. Basically, by definition, it is like you can only sell it or produce it at home. Plant parameters define like what you want, what will be the views which will be coming in. Then you have purchasing, receiving, and invoice tolerance. That means what tolerance you will allow in the material master. So that if the purchase order is created, say for 100, the good received you can do is 10% you have allowed in the material master. So you can receive up to 110. After that, your system will block any good receipts before coming in. So those all things you can block it. There's all things rules defines like what all things are there. Automatic account assignment, we'll talk about that a lot in when we do the good receipt. That means how the system determines which GL account it has to go and what valuation class it has to go. So that we'll talk about a lot. Reservation is basically whenever a sales order is created or a production order is created, material or reservation is created, and that is what like MRP runs and reads that reservation. Material group is nothing but it is a group of material with the same kind of properties. Loading group is helpful in determining what kind of shipping fund determination it has to, what route that material has to go through when the material is being sold to a customer. Okay, transactional data. Transactional data includes your basically purchase order, creation of a purchase order, creation of a purchase requisition, creation of contracts, creation of scheduling agreement, how to do the good receipt, how to receive an invoice. These are all transactional data. Okay. So the purchasing process resides in materials management module as well as FI module, because there is a lot of integration between when you do the purchasing module with the finance module. Master data for purchasing exists in MM and FI. That means master data, like we'll be talking accounting views related to finance, and vendor master also has accounting views and as well as purchasing views. That is what it is talking about. And purchasing process may interface with following modules that I've already talked about, the production planning. It also like quality management, like because whenever you receive the material goes into quality inspection, and an inspection lot is created, and then you do the UD and usage decision, and the material is then moved from quality inspection to the unrestricted stock. That is where we'll have an interface with quality management. Then warehouse management, if we have to go to the bin level, then the WM warehouse management comes in. Okay, this is what we will be talking about. This is what the PTP is, Procure-to-Pay. That is, the process starts with the creation of a purchase requisition, and then the purchase order is created with reference to purchase requisition. We notify the vendor. Vendor ships the material. You do the good receipt. Vendor sends you the invoice. You receive the invoice. You verify the invoice, and then you pay to the vendor. This is a three-way match. You send the purchase order, the good receipt is done, and then invoice receipt is done. So system, when you do the invoice verification, it's just the three-way match, and check that whether the purchase order, if the quantity in the purchase order is 100, you receive say 50, you cannot do the invoice for 55, because that is what it is doing, a three-way match. So this is what we'll be talking when we do the training in detail. This is the whole cycle we'll be doing when we do the training.
Sir,
yeah.
Is SAP has a pay on receipt option? Because Oracle has that. When you receive
I didn't understand.
Pay on receipt means you don't necessarily have to wait for the invoices from customer. If you pre-approve the vendor, upon receiving quantity, based on the receiving quantity and based on the PO on the price, it automatically creates invoices for accounts payable to pay them in the next day or so.
Yeah. So what we have is ERS system, evaluated receipt settlement. That is basically you don't need a vendor to send you the invoice. So what we do is in ERS we have to set up that evaluated receipt settlement for a particular vendor. So the vendors who don't want to send the invoice, we can set up an ERS for them, and then what happens, it runs on a particular day for that particular vendor, and it settles the invoice, like whatever the good receipt has been done for that particular vendor, and it pays to the vendor. It sends the invoice verification, and it sends to the payment department to pay the particular material, to pay to the vendor, whatever good receipt has been done for that vendor. Okay. This is how the purchase order screen looks like. If you see here, create and save purchase order. This is the vendor number. This is your material number. This is your purchase order quantity. This is the currency that is coming from vendor master. And this is the net price that comes from the purchasing info record. So this is how it looks like. We'll be doing in detail when we go in. These are the line items. You can create the purchase order with consignment purchase order. We can create a purchase order for subcontracting with item category. We can create a subcontract with a purchase order for third party. So these are the different kind of purchase order we'll be creating. This is a purchase order structure. In header, you have the vendor, purchasing organization, purchasing org group, company, date, and PO price. In item, we have materials, we have quantities, we have delivery date. In the line item, like basically for every line item, we'll have a purchase order history. We have a line price. That means every line will have a price, and the delivery schedule is basically when the material is expected to arrive at the storage location level or at the plant level. Tolerances is basically every material.
Sorry, how many types of purchase orders there are there?
There is one is a standard type of purchase order. Then we have one is stock transport order, which is UB type. That is basically stock transport order is nothing but when you're moving the material from one plant to another plant, and they belong to same company code. Then we have a third kind of purchase order is a framework purchase order. So we have different kind of PO. We'll be talking about that when we go in detail for the training. But for now, like we have, I can tell you standard. We have framework PO. We have stock transport orders. We have intercompany POs. That means when the material is being moved from one company code to another company code, and being the same plant, different plant, but they belong to different company codes. So that's a different kind of purchase orders. We'll talk about that. Then we have tolerances in the line item level. Tolerances is basically I was talking about is over delivery and under delivery tolerance. If the material is gone beyond an over delivery tolerance, the material invoice at the receipt will be blocked and no more receipts are allowed beyond that. That is what you can see that on the line item level. Okay. This is your header structure, which we have already talked about: vendor, purchasing organization, condition, partner, your payment process, and status. This is the line item. You have all these things in the line item level. You have item category, material ID, materials, delivery date, net price, currency, plant, and storage location. This is an item detail structure. That is what I was telling you about: quantities, weight, invoice, conditions, and all this. We'll go in detail. Then output format. That means basically you can send the purchase order to different vendors. How do you want to send the material? Send the purchase order to the vendor. Do you want to print it, or you want to send it by email? You want to send it by EDI, that is electronic data interchange, or you want to send the purchase order by fax. That all settings can be done, and the purchase order can be outputted to the vendor. Search purchase orders, these are different reports. You can use it. I'll show you like different kind of reports, or you can search purchase orders by material number or by vendor number. Okay, this is then we start with the good receipt. That is once the purchase order is issued, you notify the vendor that the material we have sent the purchase order. Vendor will ship the material, and you will receive the goods. Okay, this is good receipt. You have different kind of movement types in good receipt. We have 1 minute. Okay, we have like different kinds of good receipt for movement types for good receipt. We have good issues. We have stock transfers. The stock transfer is basically moving the material from one plant to another plant, or moving the material from one storage location to another storage location. That is what is stock transfer. In case of when the movement type determines, movement type determines is basically what quantity fields will be updated, what stocks types are updated. It also gives you the general ledger account, like which general account will be updated, and the fields are displayed during the document entry. That's what it says. We'll talk about this in detail because this is now very top level, but once you go into the system, you will understand it more what I'm talking about. Then you have material movements. That is what like different kind of movement types. In inventory, the most important thing in SAP is about the movement types. There are different kinds of movement types. Like if you see here, when you receive the goods in the warehouse or in the storage location, it is 101 movement type. The SAP, the way they have set up is for every movement type, there is a reversal movement type, so that you can reverse your whatever the transaction you have done. So 102 is a reversal. 103 is like you receive the material in a GR block stock. 122 is return delivery to vendor, then you can send that material back to the vendor with 122 movement type. 501 you receive the material with a purchase order. So inventory management is all about movement types in SAP. Okay, good receipt is a good movement. Like basically it is nothing but you're receiving the material in your system. That means you're accepting goods in your system. So if the materials are delivered against a purchase order, we'll reference that order. Means whenever you're receiving a material like against a purchase order, you will reference that purchase order, and it will copy everything. Every data will be copied from the purchase order, and you receive that material. Okay. You have good receipt into the warehouse. You can good receipt directly into the consumption. You can good receipt posted into a block stock. That means into a GR block stock. That means is good receipt into consumption is basically There are purchase orders which are account assigned. That means you are procuring a material for a particular cost center. Then when you receive that material for a purchase order, it directly goes and consumes that for that particular cost center. The inventory is not updated. But if you want to receive that stock, you want to increase your stock, then you receive a material for a purchase order which is not account assigned. Similarly, you can receive a material into a GR block stock. Okay. So once your good received is done, your purchase order history is updated, and your purchase order is updated that the material is received. The material master stock is updated, and the value is updated. Notification of good received issued is basically you can send that it's an optional notification of good received. Basically that, okay, I have received it. And transfer request to the warehouse management module. That means if you have a WM up and you have activated warehouse management for that particular storage location, what will happen is a transfer request is created, TR is created. That means now you can receive that material in the warehouse.
Saurav, I have another question here.
Yes.
Quality control, where it comes in play?
Yeah, quality control comes in when you receive the good. When you receive the good and you want to receive the material in the quality inspection stock, what happens is an inspection lot is created. And if a quality module is up, then what happens is inspection lot is created, and the people like in the quality, what they do is they inspect the material and they put the results in there, and then they give the usage decision whether they want to move the material into the unrestricted stock or not. If they want, they can move the material, they can scrap the material, they can say this material is not good. Then what we do is we can return it back with 122. That is where quality module comes in.
So it is actually only after they're doing the releasing of the inventory.
Yes. So first time, like what happens is when you talk to the company, and what they will say is certain materials will go through quality inspection. If that is the case, what will happen is in the material master there is a setting which says, okay, this material has to go through quality. So whenever you receive the material, those material will come into quality inspection. And when they receive it, the quality inspection lot will be created.
It's outside of pharmaceuticals industry. Is other companies use this QM module?
Yes, a lot of people. Yeah, almost all the companies, they use quality module.
And it's also part of the MM?
Yes. It is not part of MM. No, that is totally. So if there is no, means quality module is a totally different module. Okay. But I will do lot of interface with quality. That is means we will do is we'll release the material from quality, we will bring back into quality. You can scrap the material from quality. That we will do it here in MM. Okay. So that is what I was talking about, the material good receipt effect. I was talking about materials and financial documents are created when you do the good receipt. Your stock and consumption accounts are updated, and the inspection notification in the quality module. That is what I was talking about. Inspection lots are created in when you do the good receipt. Okay, account posting, inventory account is debited at the standard price. When you do the good receipt, what happens? First is like inventory account is debited at standard price. This is what like the integration is between MM and FI. Like inventory account is debited at standard price. GRIR account is credited at the purchase order price. And if there is any difference between a standard price and a purchase order price, the price difference is debited and credited based on the loss and profit. Okay. So this is the same thing, purchase requisition, no impact on financial. When you create a purchase requisition, there is no impact on financial accounting. When you do the purchase order, then also it is no impact on financial accounting. But when you do the good receipt, the material management is very deeply integrated with accounts and finance via an account assignment, automatic account assignment. When we do this thing, I'll tell you how to configure all these automatic account assignment. When we do the inventory management, you will understand more then. Okay. Then comes your invoice receipt. That is the final step in the materials management PTP process. How to do the invoice verification. That's a three-way match. enter a PO number, system gives you the quantity, you put the dollar amount, what is the dollar amount, you put the quantity, what is the quantity, the vendor has received it, the price, date, and the vendor name, enter like all these number, and you post the invoice. That is what the three-way match is, like between a purchase order, invoice receipt, and good receipt. Verification is done, and the payment program runs and pays to the vendor. This three-way match, like I was talking about, you talk about purchase, the three-way match is done for the quantity. It is also done for the price. If there is a price difference between what the purchase order price and what the invoice is sent for a difference, the invoice gets blocked if the price is the difference. If the difference between the purchase order quantity and good received quantity is not matching, the invoice will be blocked. So this is what it is talking about the three-way match. This is match, that is the same thing, matches price and the purchase order. So when an invoice is posted, what happens is SAP shifts the liability from the good received invoice to in GR invoice account to the vendor account. To briefly explain what happens is when you post an invoice, the GRIR account is debited and the vendor account is credited. I will talk in detail like what all these three T's are when we go into the inventory management and invoice verification, how these debit and credit happens. Like when you pay to the vendor account is debited and the bank is credited. We'll talk about that when we talk in detail, when we do the invoice verification. That time you will understand more. So upon posting, what does SAP does when you post the invoice? It updates the purchase order, it updates the material master, it creates an accounting document, and it initiates the payment process with the financial accounting. That's what the system does. Okay, this is reconciliation account that is assigned to when you do the invoice receipt for a reconciliation account, the vendor is assigned to a reconciliation account. Invoice payment. This is settlement process. This is more for the finance people. We don't need to do. Payment program is again for the finance people. We don't need to do that. Vendor payment. This is like only people like there is a bank and amount owed is paid to the bank and vendor is paid. You don't need to worry about that because that is more to the finance people. This is what we talked about. This is purchase order history, how it looks like. If you see here, this is the PO history tab. Once like this is the good receipt is done, and this is how it looks like. This is how it will look like. What is the quantity which has been received, when the posting date was done, or that amount comes from the purchase order. That is how it looks like. This is your inventory stocks requirement list. What is the stock? And this is how we will be talking about. This is what it's all about. Your SAP MM will be talking in detail when we go into the training. We'll be talking a lot. This was just a quick overview of what we'll be talking in the training, but there will be a lot of things we'll be doing in the training. This is just an overview. Any questions?
This is Mohammed again.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to apologize to everybody that I have so many. I'm very familiar with the materials management. Why?
Yeah, that's fine.
I have another question that I have. Are we going to get into details of the purchase price variance and things like that also?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is like we will have at least 10 to 12 classes, and we'll have every Saturday, Sunday, and this is like just a this is just like a 1 hour overview. We'll go into every section, each and every section. We'll go into the master data. One class will be only of master data. We'll talk for at least 3 to 4 hours. We'll talk about what the master data are. Then purchasing will be at least 2 to 3 classes, and then inventory management will be 2 to 3 classes, and warehouse management will be 2 classes. So it is not like just it is just a quick overview.
Okay. And out of this let's say we have 10 classes altogether. Out of the
Sorry?
how much time that you will be dedicating into configuration? Because it seems to be that is the key area.
See, but the thing is configuration, if I just teach you configuration, you will not be able to learn it. I have to teach you first like how these process all the transactional data, all your master data. So what I do is once I complete the master data, I'll go into the configuration and I'll show you what those configuration is. Then I'll teach you purchasing first, like all the processes and how this is done in SAP, all the transactional data. Then I'll go into the configuration and I'll show you like how the configuration has to be done. Okay. Then I'll go into the inventory management and then I'll show you like how the configuration for inventory management is done. Then we'll do automatic account determination. Then I'll show you like how to configure automatic account determination. So there is a brief schedule. Like it's not like means because this is just like 1 hour session. Just like we do it for every class, just for an overview what we'll talk about. In detail, we do a lot of things. We talk about pricing procedure, like how that pricing procedure is done in SAP, how you configure the pricing procedure. So that takes a lot of time. It is not like means I'm not talk about the pricing procedure. We'll talk about the pricing procedure, how the pricing procedure, how does the price is determined in SAP automatically when you create the purchase orders. Those all things, means we'll talk about those all in detail. We'll talk about the configuration because configuration is very important as a consultant. But you as a consultant, you have to be also good in the transactional data because you have to help the users. If you don't know what you will help the users, so there when you go as a consultant, they expect you that you have a knowledge of what they are doing.
Maybe shut up now. Let's ask questions.
So this is Praveen here. Let me start off. So my question was, what kind of exercises do we get for the week? Let's say you're saying the classes will be weekly.
Yeah. So what I do is basically I have an SAP Academy training document. Okay. So I follow SAP Training Academy document. Once like you enroll for the training, then these guys, Neela will give you the training document. We'll follow the training document, and that is what we will do. There are exercises in that you practice those exercises.
Oh, okay. As a learner side, how many hours do you think we should put for a week to learn after the training?
You should put at least 5 to 6 hours a day, depending on how your grasping power is. Some people they catch up very fast. Some people take a little bit time. So it is not like means it is up to like how fast you do it because you have to do the reading also. It is practice and reading, and I expect like after the training you should give at least after a month or 5 weeks of training, you should give at least a month time to be comfortable. So give a 2 months time before you are ready for the market.
And you be doing the classes in classroom or everything's going to be online? Because I'm planning to get the classroom.
Yes, I'll be going in the classroom.
Oh, okay. That's all the question that I had.
Okay. Else, like who has questions?
So this is Praveen again, Sanjay. You said that the material management has nothing to do with the quality management. I mean, not
no,
disregard interest.
No, it has to do. I mean, that's what I was telling. Like when we do the good receipt, an inspection lot is created, and anything noting the values of the inspection, that is done by the QM people. But then again, releasing the material from quality to unrestricted, or scrapping the material, or moving the material into quality to blocked, and all that kind of stuff, that is a job of materials management.
Okay, so if I take the SAP QM training, is there enough jobs out there? Because that's also one more thing. I mean, you take the training, but there should be jobs also when you take that training, right?
If the jobs are always there, a lot of jobs are there in the market. Yep, jobs are there definitely.
Okay, because not as many as the MMs, right? MMs are like populated.
Is more, yes. MM side the jobs are more. And you can, you see, like now I started my career as an MM consultant. Now I'm doing MM, I'm doing warehouse management, I'm doing shipping, I'm doing transportation, I'm doing PP, production planning. And so in 2 projects I have worked as an SD consultant. So it is like you start with one and then you venture into that whole different area.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.